people that work at Disney World are very well trained. They know what they're doing and how to keep people entertained. It's a very clean place. They don't allow litter to collect at all. The rides are a whole lot of fun. There's Mom and Michelle riding the hobby horse together. I don't know who enjoyed that more, Michelle or Mom. There's Rich with his Cincinnati ball cap. He's a real Cincinnati Reds fan, even still today. There's Mom, Michelle, and Rich. Uh-oh, Michelle looks like she's hurt her hand or something. Boy, they really enjoyed those trips to Disney World. There's Rich saluting. Michelle, she's zonked. She's already tired out. As you can see, they have a lot of different rides there. There's Daddy trying to get up enough courage to get out in that cold water. Michelle looks like she's a little cool too. The wind's really blowing. You can see Michelle's hair blowing quite a bit. It's a good place to fly kites, of course. That's some of the beach area. There's some condos and hotels. This is New Smyrna Beach in Florida. It's really popular tourist area. It's about 15 miles south of Daytona Beach. It's on the Atlantic Ocean side of Florida. It's interesting, when you get out in the water, you can sometimes see jellyfish, and a few times I've seen the stingrays swim by, which is kind of sobering. Be out there and have stingrays come pretty close. People love to get out there and swim, though. It's a very gradually sloping beach area. You can walk out for quite some ways without being over your head. Of course, the water is really blue looking when you're there in person. It's not very well shown in these movies, unfortunately. There's the lifeguard watching after the folks in the water. There's Dad backpedaling in the water. I bet I got a sunburn that day because I looked kind of white. Oops. It's fun to get out there in the surf and let those big waves come by and either let them hit you or dive into them. Well, there's Miss Beauty Queen. Uh-oh. Got that salt water in her eyes. She doesn't like that very much. Michelle could always make friends. Every time she went to the beach, she had no trouble at all finding little friends to play with. She was always Miss Personality. That's a beautiful beach there in Florida. Very wide, very gradual. Now that's part of Daytona Beach. Out there in the distance a moment ago, you could see the long pier. This is a trip we made out in Florida to get some oranges. There are a lot of beautiful Indian River orange groves in Florida, and this is a chance we had to go and pick some of our own fruit. Michelle's putting one in the basket. There's Tootie grabbing some. Rich. Looks like Tandy's getting some off the ground even. That Indian River fruit is just impossible to beat. It's so naturally sweet. They let the fruit ripen right on the trees. For several years when we were in Huntington, we would order Indian River fruit and sell it to help finance our little church school there. It always sold very well. Boy, those oranges look good. Really miss those. There's my darling wife and her mother, Ethel. This is still in Florida. This is just an abandoned, probably historical site there. It's kind of a spooky place almost, with the hanging moss in the trees, and it's almost like a plantation scene or something. But it's kind of on the way to what's called Turtle Mound. I think we'll have some films coming up soon of the Turtle Mound area. Yes, here we are now. It's called Turtle Mound. It's where some of the Indians used to live, and they would eat the clams out of the water there, and they would just throw the shells into this big pile, and over many, many years it just created a big mound. It's called Turtle Mound. A useful trash heap. The abundance of shellfish. There were a lot of shellfish there, and it's a ready source of food for the Indians. Here we are driving back to Tandy and Ethel's place there in Florida. You can see all the nice condos and hotels and things along the beach. Here we are just driving along the beach there in New Smyrna. A lot of pretty sand. This is the jetty out there. We used to like to go out there and walk along the jetty. A lot of people fished off of that. One day I was standing there watching this fella net fish, and he threw his net out and caught 3 stingrays. And he was just in water up to about his waist. There's Tandy and Ethel. They really enjoy their life down there in Florida. A seagull. Looks like my darling wife's taking the movies again this time. You can bet she's not in a swimsuit. She's probably in her jeans and shirt, because she just doesn't like to get out there and show everybody her white legs. Rich really enjoys that water and beach area. There's his styrofoam surfboard. It was about 850 miles, if I remember correctly, down to Florida from West Virginia. And we used to take off, and one way we used to go down 75, it took us 20 hours once. But then we started going through South Carolina and that way, and I think we could make it in about 15 hours. But it's a pretty hard drive in one day. Grandmother and Big Dad. Oh boy, Michelle loves that ocean. Well, let's see, where are we now? I think we're probably back in Huntington. I think that was a tire swing we had out back there. There's Rich being the great little brother, giving his sister pushes. Now we're back in Williamson. There's Elaine on her tricycle. This is at my mother's house. 19 East 5th Avenue. Elaine's a pretty little blonde-headed girl. And there's my mother, Lorraine. Very pretty lady. Well, let's see, who else do we have out front there? There's Kimberly. She's on her bike. It's my brother Robert's daughter. Elaine's his youngest daughter. I don't know who's laying in the swing, in the glider there. I see their legs, but there's my brother Robert. He's now an attorney there in Williamson. Sideburns were the thing back then. I'm not sure how long ago these were made. I just have to guess the ages of Kimberly and Elaine. There's you-know-who standing beside Mom. I'm not sure whether Tootie's taking these movies or whether it's Carol, because I don't see Rich or Michelle in the pictures anywhere. I think it's probably Carol. There's Elaine getting some exercise running up the street. Kimberly and her dad. Kimberly was voted Miss Williamson High School this year. She graduated from Williamson High this year, too. Well, here we are back on another vacation in Washington, D.C. There's the Capitol building. I think that's the Lincoln Memorial, probably. It's hard to see from that distance. Here we are back at the zoo in Cincinnati. Or no, I think this is the Washington Zoo. I'm sorry. Yep, there's some gorillas. That's a big bear. Kind of looks like a grizzly bear. The Washington Zoo is a nice one. They had the pandas there that year, but I don't think we got a very good view of the pandas. That looks like a hyena or something. Of course, there's the seal. Looks like some interesting birds. I'm not sure what kind all of them are. There's Tootie and Rich and Michelle. Boy, Michelle's hair is sure long that summer. The giraffe's trying to reach out and get some food. Let's see if we can see his long tongue here in a minute. Oops, that elephant looks like it's stuck in the doorway, doesn't it? Boy, those tusks there are nice and white. That's a pretty elephant. Rich and Michelle always enjoyed going to the zoo. I think he could just about stretch his trunk out and get some peanuts and things. There's a large hippopotamus. Looks like he's got a weight problem. Rhino looks like he just has a short little horn. Here's a pretty zebra. Well, here we are for another recital. There's Rich standing back there in his suit. He looks all dapper for the recital. He always did extremely well in his recitals. That's Pam Melnick, their piano teacher.